We want to bring in Niall Stanage, White House columnist at our partner, The Hill. Niall, thanks for staying with us.
Good to be here, Natasha.
So you heard Governor DeSantis' comment to our Kelly Meyer. When do you think we can expect to hear DeSantis actually throw his hat in the ring? And at this point, does he have any time to lose as polling shows Mr. Trump continuing to pull ahead?
Well, I think soon is the answer. But, when is soon? How long is a piece of string? It's one of those debatable questions. But he does have to get in there pretty soon. As you say, former President Trump has expanded his lead. Certainly in national polls, the average in one polling from one polling website has him 30 points ahead. There you see that similar gap in the graphic you're displaying. So look, obviously Governor DeSantis has lost ground. There isn't an enormous amount of time to make that up. I mean, we'll have debates by August, so he really needs to get in sooner rather than later.
Tell us more about this momentum that Mr. Trump is seeing in polling right now. What accounts for it in the last few weeks, even with his sexual assault trial and other legal troubles?
I think there are a couple of things. And when you mention legal troubles, the other main one is the numerous indictments against him by Manhattan District Attorney Alvin Bragg. Now, in that case, there seems to have been a rallying around the former president by Republican voters, Republicans at least believing those charges to be rather flimsy and perhaps politically motivated. It's also worth noting, Natasha, that Governor DeSantis has made some missteps, the most notable probably being the downplaying of the war in Ukraine, which he tried to back away from or tried to put right the mess he created for himself there. But I think a couple of those kind of factors are the ones contributing to this expansion of the Trump lead over DeSantis.
And meanwhile, earlier this evening, we were talking about the Trump campaign releasing a new video. It shows their candidate bashing DeSantis pretty pointedly. Let's take a listen together again quickly.
The problem with Ron DeSanctimonious is that he needs a personality transplant, and those are not yet available. Almost all Congress.
So Mr. Trump's attacks seem to be sharpest on DeSantis, even though he hasn't formally declared yet. What do you make of this tactic? Does it elevate DeSantis, further legitimize him in the eyes of the voters, or is it working with potential voters?
What it does, I think, is underline that Ron DeSantis is the most serious potential threat to the former president. But I also think that it is notable that it does appear to have had some effect, because what the former president's trying to do there is really snuff out DeSantis's bid before it gets any kind of momentum. And he's had a degree of success with that. Now, if you talk to DeSantis's people, they will argue that the governor has survived that initial assault and is still well enough placed to make a serious run for the nomination. Politics, as we know, Natasha, can change very rapidly. The mood of a campaign can switch just the way the momentum in a sporting contest can change. But right now, former President Trump, clearly the favorite for the Republican nomination.
Okay, and I do want to ask about one more topic while we're together, Niall. Another GOP candidate, Vivek Ramaswamy, caused a bit of a stir this week. He proposed raising the U.S. voting age to 25 unless 18 to 24-year-olds meet certain requirements. Is this something that the larger Republican base could get behind, or is this a lost cause in the long run?
Oh, I think it's a lost cause, except if you regard it as an attention-getting maneuver when it has been quite successful. But, I know the argument he's making, which is incentivizing public service as a means to vote. But as a political matter, what he's talking about is disenfranchising a huge number of young voters. That's never going to fly. That's a demographic that Republicans have enough troubles with as it is, without making what would ultimately be a fruitless attempt to take the vote away from them. That's not going to work out terribly well for anybody.
Okay, appreciate the context. Have a great night. Niall Stanage, thank you so much. Thank you for watching. Go to newsnationnow.com to find News Nation on your television provider. And don't forget to click the red subscribe button below to get more of News Nation's fact-driven, unbiased coverage.